Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is crying at a movie, not because anything bad happened to them, not because they're in pain. They're sitting in a dark room watching fictional people they've never met, and their eyes are filling with water. That's a strange thing to do. Every other function your body performs makes immediate sense. You sweat to cool down. You bleed when you're cut. You flinch when something moves toward your face. All of it is fast, automatic, and practical. But crying at a story about people who don't exist, that requires an explanation. And the one most people reach for, that we cry because we're sad, falls apart almost immediately. Because you can cry when you're happy. You can cry when you're proud, when you're overwhelmed, when you're laughing too hard, when you hear a song you forgot you loved. Sadness explains some crying. It doesn't explain anywhere near all of it. So what's actually happening? And why do humans do something that no other animal on the planet does in quite the same way? Let's start with the basics, because even the mechanics are stranger than most people realize. You actually have three different kinds of tears. The first kind are called basal tears. These are always there. Your eyes are producing them right now. They keep the surface of your eye moist and protected, and you never notice them unless something goes wrong. The second kind are reflex tears. These show up when something irritates your eye. Smoke, wind, cutting an onion. Your body is trying to flush out whatever got in. That one makes straightforward sense. The third kind are the ones that matter. Emotional tears. And these are genuinely unusual. They're chemically different from the other two. Emotional tears contain higher levels of stress hormones, including one called leucine and kephalin, which is a natural painkiller. They also contain prolactin, the same hormone involved in breastfeeding, and higher concentrations of ACTH, a hormone your body releases under stress. No other animal produces emotional tears. Some animals produce basal tears to keep their eyes moist. Some produce reflex tears when their eyes are irritated. But the kind of crying that happens when you're overwhelmed, grieving, or watching something heartbreaking, that appears to be exclusively human, which raises the question that evolutionary biologists have been quietly arguing about for decades. Why would natural selection build this? The obvious answer is that it releases stress. Crying does lower cortisol levels. The hormones and emotional tears are being expelled from the body, which is part of why people report feeling physically lighter after crying. But that alone doesn't explain why the tears have to come out of your eyes, where everyone can see them. You could release stress hormones through sweat, through urine, through 100 other routes that don't involve your face, broadcasting your emotional state to everyone in the room. The fact that crying is visible is not a design flaw. It's the whole point. Here's what researchers believe is actually going on. Crying is a social signal, possibly one of the oldest and most powerful ones our species has. Before we had language, before we had the ability to say, I am in pain, or I need help, or I cannot handle this alone, the human face found another way to communicate it. Tears are impossible to miss and very hard to fake convincingly for a sustained period. They signal vulnerability in a way that words can't quite match, and the response they trigger in other people is not random. When you see someone cry, really cry, not a single tear but full emotional collapse, something activates in you. Your own stress response shifts. Most people feel an involuntary pull toward the person, the urge to help, to comfort, to close the distance. That's not politeness, that's biology, is activated by watching someone cry. Emotional tears are a distress signal that bypasses language entirely, and for most of human history, that kind of signal may have been essential. Think about what early human life looked like: small groups, tightly bound, completely dependent on each other. A person who was overwhelmed, grieving, or at their limit needed others to know that, not because of weakness, but because isolation during crisis was lethal. Crying may have evolved as a way to say, without words, I am past the point of managing this alone. Come closer, and there's evidence this still works exactly that way. Studies on crying behavior consistently show that crying in the presence of others leads to better outcomes than crying alone. Social crying, crying where someone else can see you, produces faster physiological recovery, faster emotional regulation,